Hey, for something to endure, it must be made of granite or words. That's a quote that stopped me in my tracks. I was reading a brand new book that is coming out in the marketplace called True Nature Hidden in the High Sierra by Lisa Michaud. I am honored today to have Lisa on our podcast. She's here from her home over in the Calaveras area. She is a true explorer of the Sierra. She's a writer. She's a screenwriter. She's done a lot of different things, but more than anything else, she has discovered some awesome hidden gems of the Sierra. And she had that normal battle with like, do I share it or not? Kind of us media people face all the time, right? So do we share our favorite things? Lisa, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, I'm doing great. Just so glad to be able to get together with you and talk about something we both love so much and share it with everyone.
That's awesome. It really was pretty fantastic to read your book and to dive into some of your story, which is really complex, obviously. And then I mean, I literally, and I'll tell you my readers this is, there were times I was crying, there were times I was laughing out loud, and there were times that I was literally racing to go find my map, going, where in the heck is that? I got to go find it, right? And I've been exploring this Sierra for past 18 years up and down the mountains and range and but every time I go out there's a new place to explore, right? This weekend I went to Gardner Meadows, never been there before. My first time in, it was absolutely stunning in springtime with wildflowers and snowpacks. But I imagine you've got that this is only a small sampling of your Sierra adventure stories. Maybe you can go back and just tell us where this all started from, how you got started in writing, uh, kind of where this story developed from.
Well, I'll try to summarize because that's kind of a long, winding road how I got here because it took quite a few years. I started out as a rodeo cowgirl and
Oh,
decided I wanted to do screenwriting. So that was the writing transition. Moved to LA, did a bunch of that, won some awards, thought, man, this is easy. I can do this. I love it. And I'm just not suited for LA and decided to come home and do what I call real writing. Took some classes at Lake Tahoe Community College, of all places, and fell in love with just the whole creativity of the writing process. Did a few freelance articles, started getting paid, and thought, oh, I mean, not much, but it was a start and felt good. Felt like, it gave me hope that I could do this. And at the same time, I started working on a novel and got into. It took me 5 years to get that first novel out there, and assumed it would be just a total flop, and it wasn't, to my
hmm.
surprise. And so I decided to write another one in half that time, 2.5 years. And that one was called Blue Mountain and did really well and really gave me the kick in the pants I needed to say, I am going to do this for real and take it seriously. So I did. I
And the Blue Mountain was like a mystery.
crime,
What was
crime
it?
thriller,
Yeah. Okay.
murder
There you go.
mystery,
Yep.
psychological thriller, bad Nana.
It's the TV my wife loves to watch.
Yes, yes. If you are a true crime podcast person or you like those dark thrillers, yes, I do too. And so I focused on those, and then everybody was, I sold a series, and that kind of got me thinking. I really want to do this guidebook. It started out as a guidebook. True Nature was going to be a guidebook, and it just felt wrong. I just felt
hmm.
I couldn't put my finger on why, so I kept putting it to the side, kept putting it to the side. And then I kind of started including some of my journey on how I found the places, because some of those stories were pretty unbelievable. Like if I told we were
Yeah.
sitting around the campfire talking about it, it'd be like, wow, that's crazy how that happened, like the Machado Post File
Yep.
story. Um, what is that? God, the universe? I don't know, but it is something. And so yeah, that um morphed into this whole storytelling, and then I just kind of went with it. Then I put it to the side again until I met Bob.
So you
Last
met Bob. You met Bob. I'm not going to blow the story on Bob, okay, guys? But you got to buy the book. But along with Bob, let me just give you a little hook here. It's going to give you the secret, most best fishing lake in the Sierra, according to Bob. Yeah, but
And
it sounds like it might have been.
I did
So
in a few hours I spent with Bob, my muse Bob, I believe him.
it sure sounded like it was a heck of an experience to be in there. I don't want to get to Bob right now. 'Cause I want to back up because you said Lake Tahoe, and one of the stories in the book is you may be one of the first to write about an experience where you paddleboard all the way around the lake. You may not have been the first, but you're the first maybe to write about it. It sounds like. And that story captivated me because I learned how to paddleboard last year. I can't imagine trying to do the whole lake. I can't imagine going through some of the things you did on that lake. And I just thought maybe I'd take an opportunity, if we just pull a chapter out of the book for a moment, share with them what it was like to do a circle around the whole lake on paddleboard by yourself.
Oh, it is one of those things that when I am old and I cannot do anything, I can remember that trip. I hope to God
Yeah.
that I can remember the way the sun reflected through the water, that turquoise green, and move the
Mm-hmm.
rocks around, and the holes in the rocks, just every little detail, the smell and the lightning and the wind and like just the
Yeah.
power of nature and just that intimacy that I experienced with that lake. I mean, I get emotional just talking about it or thinking about it. It's just man, I wish everyone could experience something, not necessarily Lake Tahoe or the paddleboarding, but just
Right.
something that connects you that deeply to nature. That
That's a really cool way of saying it. I know it captivated me because I know so many of the shores myself, walking or hiking around them, and yet you tell stories about the deepest part of the lake coming off of Emerald Bay, and the color of the water. And of course, you share some of the Indian, you know. Tidbits about the legends of the lake too, which is really pretty cool. And then of course the lake turns on you, right? All of a sudden it goes from this super friendly, great adventure to here's Mother Nature, it's going to kill you.
well, you have to earn it. It's
Right. Yeah.
Mother Nature saying that. That seemed to be, as I wrote this book, seemed to appear almost in every story. None of it came
Mm-hmm.
easy. Like I could have easily just said, when that wind started up and I was going nowhere fast, and then it was raining and lightning and thunder, and um, no spoilers there.
Yeah. I know.
It's get off the lake and just call it a day. So,
Yep.
I mean, I did get off the lake, but I wasn't ready to call it a day. I wanted to feel I gave it 110%. That's,
Mm-hmm.
what you do when you're rodeoing, you're giving 110%. It coming from I don't know if it's the competitiveness in me. And my mom was asking me that just yesterday, when she fit, why do you do this to yourself? I honestly, I don't know, but I'm so glad when it's over. I guess type 2 fun. You're so
Yeah.
glad you
Exactly.
do it.
It's funny. This show is here at the end of June. This week's show that we just broadcast was actually a rodeo gal here in town that's a barrel racer, and she was just talking about that connection between competitiveness and just pure passion, right? Of the passion with your horse and animals. Yeah, so Lisa, you take readers deep into the Sierra in your book, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. You have a lot of moments in there. What moment or experience that first made you feel like there's a deeper story of the Sierra that you want to tell?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that I hadn't really thought about telling a deeper story until after the fact.
Okay.
It was in the moment I didn't realize till I started writing the book, even as a guidebook is what it
Mhm.
started out as, and getting deeper into each and every location and story and how it affected me. Um, just I realized, I think with the Machado's post pile,
Yep.
the first place that really changed me and made me decide to quit going to rodeos and all that.
Yeah.
I There was something there. Like, what are the odds of me failing 3 attempts at trying to find that darn post pile
Yep.
and finally saying, just forget it, go to the Kirkwood Inn, deliver my cord of firewood, sit there, have a beer, talk to my friends, and two women walk in and start
Random.
talking about Machado's post pile. I mean, come on. I mean, that's unbelievable. If someone told me that, I don't know that I would believe it, but I have witnesses.
Absolutely. No, that was a spiritual journey, right? I mean,
Oh,
you
totally.
not only have these encounters that just kind of happen or happenstance, like that wouldn't happen to a normal person, but then even on the trip, you just have these moments. It's like, yeah, and I understand exactly. You have these moments when you're in wilderness, whether wherever you're at spiritually, where things just kind of connect, and you feel like you're not alone, and you're just going through something right now. Whether it be, I mean, I've told this story before. I mean, last year, and I've hiked all over here too, but I got to get a chance to go into Yosemite last year with my son for 40 miles, and we get to this lake, and I just lose it. I mean, I just, as soon as I see the lake, I'm just bawling. It's like spiritual moment. I just said, leave me alone. I'm going to go for a swim. I need this place by myself. It was a spiritual spot for me. Right. So
Yeah.
completely get it. And that's one of those places you guys are going to have to read this book. It's called True Nature, right? You got to go pick it up because we're not going to give away all the secrets today on the show. But I'll tell you, there's a place above Silver Lake that I have hiked that backcountry I didn't know existed. And as soon as I heard about her book, I was in my maps going, where in the world is this? And I have been within a half a mile of there multiple times. so I can't wait to go back and try to discover this place on there. That's going to lead me right into my next question. I think it's the second or third chapter, you get a nickname from a camp that you go on. And it's Camp Mama, right? Or is it Camp Mama? Is that right? Did I say that right?
Well, it was Mountain
Mountain
Mama,
Mama, that's right.
but they shortened it to MoMA, so
MoMA,
I
that's what it
became
was.
MoMA.
And it really kind of stuck out to me that was a moment where you kind of you stood out against the crowd a little bit to support someone that was struggling quite a bit in the mountains. What's it mean to you to kind of go back and tell the story in your memory and go, because right in that moment you probably didn't think that was a big deal in your life, right? But it feels like it shaped you quite a bit, right? As you tell the story now, going, that really kind of changed who I was moving forward. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. I knew it affected me the minute they said that.
Oh, did you? Okay.
It 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 I mean, something in me, I literally felt it in my chest. I didn't want to cry.
Right.
I'm not a big emotional girl. I don't know if you could pick that up because I do cry a lot.
Yeah. You had some emotional moments.
I'm not usually very emotional. I do not like crying, whether it be in front of anyone or by myself.
Right.
And man, I just expected them to be kind of irritated with
Mm-hmm.
me because I was irritated with them. And, I just didn't feel like I deserved that respect, that appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
and the love. The love. If you want to get down to
It
it,
is.
I felt loved.
Yep.
That's what it was. They showed me love within a few days
Yeah.
of being with them, and that changed me. And I thought, if they can do that to me, I can do that to them. I can do that for others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and why shouldn't we?
Why shouldn't we? That is the question, right? I can't remember if it was your book that I read this in, or it's something I've read since then. But the whole idea of people who say hi to people on trail and talk to people on trail, right? I'm one of
Yes.
those people. I say hi and talk to everybody who walks by, and so But I've told this story in the past to friends of mine, going, it is those moments on the trail where you meet somebody that actually changed my direction in Sierra Rec, right? It's like my very first trip in Yosemite by myself. I was hiking Cathedral Lakes. I'm struggling going up that climb. That first climb just, takes your breath away. And I'm just so sweating. And I meet this old codger, this old guy coming down the trail, and he stops to say hi to me. So I start chatting with him. And he goes to ask me where I'm going. I said, I'm going to Cathedral Lakes. He goes, are you going to Upper? I go, I don't know. I see how I feel today. I go, and he says, stop right there. He says, you have to go to Upper Cathedral Lakes. Matter of fact, skip lower, go directly there. And as you get to the lake, there's a little river crossing. Before you get to the lake, take that river crossing and follow it back to the back of the lake. And then you're going to get on a ridge. You can see both lakes at the same time. It's the best place to see Cathedral Lakes. To this day, I don't do that hike without doing that exact thing. I send people and tell them the exact plan because he was absolutely right. It is the best place to watch both lakes, see the peak. whole 9 yards. And I went back to the lower lake later in the day, but I always remember that moment going, he didn't have to share that with me, but he
No,
did. And it's changed my whole perspective of when I get to these places to look around and find those unique spots, right? The uniqueness in the spot.
yes, and those are the kind of people that we want to be. We want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of me, that and Bob deciding to write this
You and
book.
Bob, yeah.
And I think when you're talking about the saying hello, I was always a hi, how you
Mm-hmm.
doing, walk by, keep going. But my friend Sarah, it's called the How's It Going chapter. She would stop and chat you up. She was the chatty Cathy that wouldn't stop talking on the trail.
That's right. It was Sarah.
And I just was like, oh my gosh, like it's taking us twice as long to get anywhere, because I'm not kidding you. And if we're on a weekend when it's a busy trail, she's like, you want me to take your picture?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was just so kind. It drove me crazy. But I took that with me.
Yep.
She gifted me that. Now, if I wouldn't have stopped and said hi, or if Sarah wouldn't have stopped me, we met on the trail, and if
Yep.
she wouldn't have said, hey, how's it going, and chatted me up, I would have never had one of the best friends I've ever had
The
in my
life
life.
experiences that you got to experience, right? And you think about it. I thought about that at the end of your book, right? You meet Bob. How many times do we get to a place in the mountains or a mountain lake, and there's somebody there, and so we scurry the other direction and never even really connect with them or contact. One out of maybe a sense of privacy, maybe it's a sense of fear, whatever the sense is. And here it is, a moment you got to meet this old man. I'm not going to tell his story because I'm not going to ruin this story for Bob. You've got to read this book. But it ends up being a connection that changes your direction considerably for the last 3 years at least, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get what you're saying about, we might hike up to a lake regardless of how far away it is or how close it is to a road.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always looking for that spot away from everyone. And I'm guilty of that
All the
too.
time.
Like if I hear people they're over here camping, I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
the opposite side.
Yeah, me too.
I want to be by myself. But there was just Bob again, going back to your reference about chatting someone up, just saying hello. Bob was a little extreme, but thank God he was.
Yep, exactly. Let me ask you this question: as a woman who hikes, and you do a lot of solo, at least in your book, a lot of solo stuff that you go out on. Have you ever been, afraid of that while you're out and you meet a man in the middle of the wilderness, for example? I mean, do those things? You seem like you're a pretty confident woman. Does that freak you out at all? If you're speaking to women in the audience, I mean, it's got to be something to it a little bit, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. And I get it. I get it. I had hiked a lot and camped a lot and did not see it coming when I went to a secret spot that I won't name.
Okay.
It's a very beautiful hole in a river
Yep.
somewhere. And
Somewhere.
if you want to know, you have to get the book.
You have to get the book.
I was by myself and I had a total full on freak out. No cell phone service, had to paddle in there. Difficult to get to. You weren't just it was dark. You're not gonna just get out of there in a few minutes.
Yep.
So, or call for help. So I had to deal. I couldn't leave. I had to deal. And thank goodness again that I did. It was a test. I passed. It was hard, yes. But after doing that, I've had little moments here and there, but never scared, never panicked. I did one time on a place called the Lost Coast, which is definitely kind of a hidden gem, not
Yep.
so much anymore
Yeah.
with all the social media, but when I did it, it's kind of a sketchy place because there's a lot of marijuana growers back there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, by myself with my little dog. I was very nervous where I had camped. I had set up my tent and everything in this little gully kind of where water came into the ocean.
Yep.
And I could hear them talking. There was a couple of them. And I just, goes back to your gut instinct. I think women, I'm sure men have this too.
Yep.
But I know a lot of women, my friends especially, we have this gut feeling and we usually will say, oh, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure we'll justify it, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't justify. Like I felt really uncomfortable.
Yep. Yeah.
To put it mildly. I packed up my tent and I moved on.
Yep, time to move on. Exactly.
And
You know,
I
in,
went about another 2 miles and set up camp. And I was still scared that night because I didn't realize there's bears right there on the ocean, and one was scratching at my tent, and
oh no.
I thought, what the heck is going on? But yeah, I mean, and I'm not afraid to say there's times I've camped and hiked with a gun, with a small pistol. I
Yep.
put it in my shoe, and I've never, other than just my own security. And I know that will open up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
Women will tell you that they don't like it, they feel uncomfortable, which is totally fine. You have to do you.
Yep. Yep.
And I feel comfortable having that gun with me. I've traveled a lot, sleep in my Subaru,
Yep.
and having that gun, just right or
Just a little
wrong,
extra, right? My
if
my dad
something
my
comes.
dad actually gave me a gun when I first started backpacking, wanted me to carry it. I carried it like the first two times, and then I just go, this is kind of silly. I was putting it in the bottom of my backpack, like I was ever going to get to it. It was really
Yeah,
silly. I go, okay, I'm not doing that. But I could, as a kid, we did it all the time. That wherever we went, out with dad, we were always carrying guns. So
yeah,
completely
yeah.
get it and understand the nature of it and the need for it in some cases. But yeah, it's
And
something.
I think bear spray now, I have grizzly spray, and it's surprising you can't take it into
Yeah,
Yosemite,
yeah.
which I was
Well,
shocked because
I've never had the experience of the bears that you've had. I mean, to have a bear lick lick Carly's face in the middle of the night is something I hope I never experience. Actually, because it might keep me from going to the woods, I guess. But or I've had a mama bear and a cub cross my path, and it was extremely tame. And the worst part was the cub wanted to come see me. I go, no, stay away. But I've never had the close encounters. Never had a bear come and sniff my tent that I'm aware of. At least I'm a pretty sound sleeper, but that would be it. Let me ask you this real quick here, and I know we got to get going because you have another show to go here. Is when you're writing this book, and we can come back and answer some more questions. Are there locations and stories that you just hesitated to include, or you said, I am no way going to put this one in the book?
there's a few that I didn't put in the book just because I didn't feel there was enough of a story.
Okay, great.
It was more just, hey, this is a cool place. I went there. You should go. It's awesome.
Yeah.
There was no story. That's not a story to me.
Okay.
Each place coincides with a story,
Mm-hmm.
a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yep.
And yeah, if it didn't have a story, I unfortunately didn't get to put it in there.
I love
But I
that
want,
because I think that's one of the things like I battle here at Sierra Rec. It's like I'm sharing so many places and so many details. There's sometimes that I don't feel like it's a very good story, but I want to share it because that's how I built my brand was like I'm just going to share where I go because I grew up with a dad who we just were in the woods all the time, and I just have this natural craving in life to explore, right? To go find new places. I don't go to many places over and over and over again. Let's
yeah,
go. I went to Highland Lakes this weekend. I've been to Highland Lakes 3 or 4 times, but I've never done the meadows. So we camped and went to the meadows this time, and I didn't even go see the lakes. I basically
same.
waved at them as I drove by.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I always like to try a new trail, new vista, new path, whatever it is. Um, but that's kind of one of the things I wanted to know is like how important was just really finding those unique stories for the book versus just I'm going to share it. Like I said, it started off as a guidebook. You were just going to tell people. Right now, it's filled with emotion and life lessons and stuff. So
Yeah, it definitely took on a life of its own.
it did. We're going to continue this conversation with you, Lisa. I know you got to get going here. So we were kind of running a little test here this morning with some internet stuff, but let's stop there and then we'll pull this together. All right, we're back. So we were picking up here, and just a little insider tip for you listening. I want to let you guys know we've been doing a kind of a sporadic podcast here because we had some internet issues, but now we've got them fixed out. So, Lisa, so in True Nature, your book, you blend memoir, wilderness travel, insight of hidden places, but you're also a storyteller in your career. How do you balance storytelling with sharing practical or in this case sometimes sacred knowledge of the Sierra in a book like True Nature? How do you do that as a profession?
Well, for me, I had to pick and choose which stories to share that were actually stories that
Okay.
had something interesting to say. I wasn't just writing for the sake of writing
Mm-hmm.
to tell you about this cool place I found. in fact, I excluded a few places that were cool, but didn't really have a story. So they didn't fit in the book. Um,
Did you have a sounding partner? Did Charlie was your sounding board on if that's a real story or not, or do you have a pretty good gut instinct of where that comes from?
um, I go with my gut more
Okay.
than Charlie. I do after I've written it, we'll have him read it and see what he thinks. But he's a terrible critic. He's just like, yeah, it's good. I'm like, that doesn't do me any good. And then if he says there's something wrong with it, I usually disagree. So
Sure, sure, sure. You have written other styles of books, and if people look you up online, they're going to see that you've done you call them
thrillers,
mysteries,
dark
thrillers,
murder,
start
mystery,
things.
much
So
easier to
what
kill
were
people.
there aspects of writing about wilderness and the Sierra and the energy of the Sierra that were rewarding and interesting to you compared to what you've done in your other books?
Oh, yeah, my mama approved. She said this book outshines my other ones. She said, I really like your dark thrillers, but boy, this book outshines them all.
That's
And,
cool.
and I feel like for me, I love writing the dark thrillers.
Hmm.
It's just comes comes much easier than
Yeah.
writing this. Um, it's much easier for me to lie than to tell the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
This
Got you.
book I had to tell the truth. Um, but yeah, I much rather write fiction. It's much easier than writing nonfiction, and I look forward to getting back to it. But the wilderness thing, it's the book I want to leave. Like
Gotcha.
I had won an award and wanted to write something like this, and really knew it wouldn't fit in a
Hmm.
typical publishing house. It doesn't fit in a box, so to speak.
Sure.
And so I knew I would have to go the self-publishing route with it. And then I won this award that pretty much covered all the costs of editing,
Nice.
design, everything, and gave me the kick in the pants to go ahead and do it.
That's awesome. That's incredible. I want to take the readers away from the book for a moment and dig into a little bit of you. One of the things in the book that caught my attention was towards the end you go on a fishing trip that ends up being a really bad experience, but also
Or a good
kind of a beautiful
experience.
beautiful moment at the same time, right? And and I was thinking about that in my own time and like how many times my wife originally kicked me outdoors, said you just need to go to the mountain. There's days where I just go, I got to go like right now and be in the mountains. What is it about your personality when you look at the Sierra, you open a map and go, I just need to go. I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to the mountains. What does that draw in you personally that does that, you think?
A never ending, unfulfilled curiosity. I
That's a great
just,
way of putting it.
I just don't know. FOMO,
FOMO,
fear of
exactly.
missing
FOMO,
out on
hunger.
something somebody
Yeah.
knows about and I don't. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I honestly don't know if it's a genetic defect.
I always tell my wife, it says, it's like as soon as I drive, like Hope Valley is a great example. If I'm having just a rough, I don't even have to be a bad day, just you can tell you're just off. And I can drive into Hope Valley and feel my blood pressure drop.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I
it just,
experienced it at Friday.
right?
Yes.
My buddy,
Yes.
he laughs at me. He says it's my gladiator moment. He says I walk down the trail and I just feel pine needles going through my hands or rub my hand against the manzanita brush. And he said you just do it so naturally, like rub your hand against the bark as you're walking by. And he goes, why do you do that? I go, I don't know. It
I
just
know.
that's how I'm connected. It just
I do it with rocks. I tend to do it with rocks or bark, tree bark. Yeah.
yep, yep.
Sometimes, oh, those new when the new little pine needles are coming out that are real
Yeah,
green and soft, and oh, they're just so silky. Like
yeah.
feeling up a pine tree.
I always talk about that. There's a meadow at Upper Youngs Lake in Yosemite. It's one of my favorite places in the world, and there's this layer of short mossy grass under the grass,
Mm,
and I love to just lay my cheek in it. Just like face first on my belly, laying, and I fall asleep almost every time because there's just this feeling
it's
about it
such a
against my skin. It's
connection.
awesome.
Yeah, I don't I will have to try that. I have Young's Lake on my itinerary this summer thanks to one of your previous podcasts.
There you go.
Had to go like Onyx and look on my map, and I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I hear you on that. I on the Tuolumne River hiked
Mhm.
at like the moss on the rock that's sopping wet water, and just
Yep.
like pushing on that and playing with it like it's spongy and the
Yep.
water's coming out. And I mean, I'm like a kid. Like, who does that?
Echo Lake up behind Cathedral Lakes has a shoreline like that because the forest comes down the meadow, and you're walking out to get water, and you're like on a waterbed of
Oh yeah.
moss. It's not really
Yeah.
moving, but it's like this is not really stable. He's like, am I okay
Can
sitting
I
on this?
drown
And
in this?
but it's 24 inches thick. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. It's a
Yeah,
unique experience, right?
that's the human connection. I mean, it makes us feel so connected to everything around us, to our natural environment, and ultimately our world.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Is there do you have okay, so not hidden gems, but do you have like a place in the Sierra that's like that's my spot? Like I have to go there once a year, or I go there every time I have this type of day. I mean, is there a spot in the Sierra? It's like yours, general. You don't have to give me your spot, but like,
Yeah,
is
no,
there a
I think
Hope
I know
Valley?
where
You
you're.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's hard to choose just one out of the book because like each one was so special and
Okay.
unique in its own way and affected me. But I got to go with like what you had just mentioned, Hope Valley. We were just there Friday,
Mhm.
hiked down into Charity Valley and
That's beautiful.
fished up the river, up the West Fork of the
Yep.
Carson. Water looked good, windy like you can't believe.
Hmm.
Well, we had that snowstorm on Saturday and the crazy tragic winds
Yeah.
on Saturday, first day of summer in the Sierra. Summer in the Sierra.
Welcome,
You
welcome to
never,
snow and
yeah,
Sierra.
yeah. Always expect the unexpected. But
Mhm.
like you're saying, okay, so I hadn't caught any fish. I fished for a while. I wasn't catching fish, and I could not have possibly cared less.
Yep.
Like it was just, I had to stop and just take a deep breath and be like, this is the place. There's
Yeah.
something about being in that place. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's the place for me.
You can understand why the natives loved it there back in the day, and I'm
Yes.
sure when the explorers came through, even though that whole valley was a lot of work for them to travel through,
Yes.
I can imagine it was hard for them just to pass on through, even though gold was calling. It's like
Oh, right? Right?
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen spots along like we did a river raft trip on the East Fork of the Carson River
Yeah.
this year, and you get back into some areas back behind, where you don't go very often. It's like,
Yes.
man, I cannot believe we didn't build the town here. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
such a unique spot, and
I
uh,
did
you
that
know,
last summer. The last with the tributary that you interviewed.
oh,
See, I
same
do
group,
listen to your
okay.
podcast.
You and I
I
have
think
such
it's
similar
great.
stories, yeah.
Yes. Um, yeah, we need to go hike one day
We
together,
do,
but um yeah, that was just such a difference from the West Fork to the East Fork.
yep.
Like, it's so different how the country changed and the reddish lava rock and
Hmm.
just the whole geology of that canyon, and
It's so pretty
that
back
was
there. I had no
great.
idea. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've lived here
I
18 years, had no idea that was back there. It's like, whoa. You
Well,
know.
I had it had been on my radar a while. I just kept missing the rafting guides, and I was kind of too chicken to do it by myself,
Hmm.
believe it or not. In my old age, I have
That is
learned a
quite
few lessons.
surprising.
But no, it was great. The water was still quite high. They could have kept going, but that was their last trip of the summer. They're kind of limited on how many
Yep.
they go
I
on,
got to go
and
on the first one. Yeah,
I highly
exactly.
recommend it. It is amazing and so reasonable. So now I feel confident. I'm going to do it again. I've floated the West Fork too by myself, and that's a great. You put in right there across from the campgrounds and float down, and then
Yep.
just get out at the
I've
highway and
I've
hide
never
your.
done it, but every year I see kayakers or rafters going down, and
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
that's a great place. Is there when you think of the Sierra now, with all your experience and all your ages, is there a place of the Sierra that you haven't yet gone to experience that you go, I keep hearing about that. I've got to go do that before I'm too old or too slow or whatever. What's like in your bucket list of Sierra locations that you haven't?
Explore more of the Eastern Sierra, more of
Yeah.
Yosemite, which is kind of sounds kind of crazy. But the last few summers, I've just been discovering more and more of the backcountry around Yosemite
Mm-hmm.
and just outside of Yosemite. I have August, I think, we're doing the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne,
Oh,
which
fun.
I am so looking forward to taking my time and going as slow as possible this time. I'm
Nice.
That's my goal for the summer. Every hike I do, I am going to like not have to get out by, record breaking speed, just
Yeah.
slow down and fish and swim and lay on a rock and take a nap.
Yeah, yeah. A couple years ago, and I'll share this with my readers too. My youngest son realized that with Sierra Rec, I was doing that. It's like I was putting on massive miles and seeing these beautiful places, but it was literally a 12-day hike, 12-hour hike every day. And he goes, "You're not stopping and enjoying these
Mhm.
beautiful places." So he bought me my first hammock, and he
Mm,
challenged me in a little note. Says, "I challenge you to hang this hammock and stop and enjoy." And so now I carry hammock almost everywhere I go,
I
so that
love
I
that.
can hang the hammock, not
Yeah.
be worried about the next mile, but just sit and enjoy. I mean, how many naps I've taken next to rivers and waking up with deer next to me. It's like
I
it's
know. What
crazy.
is it about naps? I
Yeah,
mean, how
they're the
did we
best.
not know about this sooner? Like, naps are freaking awesome.
We know we're just driven by more destinations.
I
What can we
know.
say? So, uh, I wanted to go back to the book one last time here, and then we'll kind of close up here with a couple of questions. I think you and I could talk about Sierra stuff all the time, but I want to be courteous of my readers as well. But throughout the book, you're obviously doing a lot of self discovery, right? You've had a lot of life elements that have driven parts of your story. Um, is there a part of the journey where you realized that the High Sierra wasn't just a destination, but really was working as a tool in your life, where it was actually changing who you were as a person or healing you as a person? Is there a moment where you can kind of identify in your life that way?
Maybe not a particular moment other than the post pile
Okay,
when I, totally pivoted my entire life from being a rodeo cowgirl and horseshoer and all that to
sure.
this like wilderness hippie. I don't know.
Yeah, good word for
Um,
it.
that was a moment that was definitely a turning point. And writing this book, to be honest, I think I might have said it earlier. The guide, this started out as purely a guidebook. I did
Hmm.
not have any intention of sharing like how it affected me and the story. I've written a lot of articles, which are very dry, to be
Yeah.
honest. They're
Yep.
very matter of fact. It's here, go here and do this, and it's cool. Um, but once I started, digging deeper, I could see like how each one affected me. Sometimes when things go wrong, and I do believe that things have to go wrong in order for us for it to make an effect. If you go on an adventure and everything's perfect, oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
But if things go totally sideways and you come out better for it, that sticks for life, and that changes you and how you approach maybe a problem tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Um, and yeah, I
Was it
think
was it
writing the
hard to
book.
be that vulnerable writing, knowing that you went from just telling stories that you made up to being a vulnerable person on pages?
Oh man, was it hard? It was worse than hard. Like, give me hard any day of the week. This was like sickening,
Sickening. Okay.
because you have to look at yourself. I had to look at myself, and I had to be honest with the readers. I had to, be honest about all the mistakes and things I've done, which were part of that process, and
Yep.
how, yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine where I would be if I didn't have the nature escape, and like
Right.
the book called True
Yep.
Nature, like
Yeah. True nature.
it's a
Is that where
process.
is it true nature? Is that does it come back to the heart of it? Is that the nature of what you are now and what you've been through? Okay.
Absolutely. And that's my goal, is hopefully we can all, maybe by reading this, and you can try a few of the things for those of you who aren't super adventurous or just maybe
Hmm.
haven't had the opportunity yet, give it a try and see how you feel about it. I just don't think you can force it.
No. Yeah.
It's like the bear thing, like when the bear ran at us. Not the bear, not the we've had a few bear
Not the bear that
experiences. Not
licked
the
his
face
Charlie's cheek.
licking bear. I left Charlie to be eaten. I At that point, that was 30 years
You have
ago.
to read the
I
book.
was
It's pretty
like,
funny.
it's every man and woman for themselves at this point when there's face licking bears.
And the fact that
But
you're still
when
together after that is pretty
yeah,
good. So,
especially at the end of that
yeah,
story,
yeah,
I was like, wow, what was I thinking? Um, but that's part of the process. I
yeah,
don't think it can be forced. I think these things just happened.
Yep.
and I can take from them what I will. Like the bear, when the bear came out, my friend and I on a trail, who is still my best friend, believe it or
Hmm.
not, after all these years. Um, when I stepped in front of that bear, I mean, I hadn't, that was only my second bear experience. It wasn't
Hmm.
like I was super brave. I didn't know I would do that.
You just
Like that was
reacted,
a
right?
discovery. You know, you don't know if you're going to jump in a raging river after
Hmm.
that kid. You hope you will. But if you do, you could maybe drown yourself.
Hmm.
Will you do that? You don't know till you're in, have that split second to decide. You just don't know. And when
Yeah.
I did that and I realized that about myself, I was like, wow, I didn't, I never even thought I would do that, especially not knowing her that well. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like she was a relative or a kid or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Your instincts just kick in. Your
You
natural
do. You don't
instincts.
know
Yeah.
what your true nature is until you are in that moment, put in that position, and whatever happens, happens.
That's great. I two last questions in the book, and then I'll ask my final three questions. These are just things that are stirring in my head after reading the book. Again, I'm gonna pitch this book to my readers. Go check out True Nature. It's look it up. It's on Amazon. I'll let you have a chance, Lisa, to talk about your website here in a bit. You almost died on a fishing trip in into Yosemite. You decided to go by yourself. No one knew where you're at. You were doing what you love to do. You've done it a million times, and it went bad.
So many
It, has
mistakes.
has that has that changed how you adventure moving forward? You know, and if so, like anything particular that you maybe give readers kind of some tips on about what was the most important thing you learned from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we become overconfident. It,
Mm-hmm.
it, it boils down for me, anyways. And I know a lot of other people too. In talking about this, I've written about the overconfidence effect. I went down that whole rabbit hole after losing my friend Sarah
Mm-hmm.
to an accident that I think she was way too overconfident in doing.
Yep.
Um, Traveling to Lebanon alone and hiking alone was not a wise choice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean whatever happened wouldn't have happened anyways. We never know. But after that experience of falling in the river and and time slowing down and having a moment to chew on everything I had done wrong, I mean, I should have drowned.
Yeah.
I should have.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
everything I shouldn't have done. I had no business out on that log. I had
Mm-hmm.
no business being down there alone, or especially not telling someone. I mean, I still do a lot of things, but I weigh the risks differently. I can always tell either my friend Jewel, who's
Mm-hmm.
called Jewel in the book,
Yeah.
she lives down near LA or she's in Texas a lot. I
Yeah.
will text her and I will tell her where I am going and when I will be back, and I will let her know. And
Yep.
if I forget to let her know, she is calling me. And if I don't have cell service, by the time I get a hold of her or she gets a hold of me, she chews me out. And
Yeah.
God bless her. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Or
Search
I'll
and
tell
rescue's coming,
Charlie.
right? Yeah.
And a lot of times, we just had an incident this winter. We had a lot of avalanches this winter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Things change. We had a plan. Few friends, we were meeting at Kirkwood. It was a holiday. It was a day after a holiday, and we thought it was okay. We arrived and parking lots were full. It was a mess.
Yep.
So we pivoted. We decided to go to Waterhouse Peak, or excuse me, Powderhouse Peak. There's
Okay.
some confusion
Yep.
on
I know
all
where
of
you're
our
at.
ends, and yeah, things just went sideways. That was the unfortunate day that a snowboarder was
I,
killed while
I
we were
was
there.
in that meadow the
Yeah,
day before snowshoeing, and saw people going up there going, I wonder how the mountain is. And I heard about the next day. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
but it was such a reminder for me because the fellow that I was with, who had much more experience than me, but ergo the
Yep.
overconfidence effect,
Mm-hmm.
and putting my trust in him. He was supposed to bring the avalanche beacons and the probes and the shovel, and he said, "Oh, we don't need them. This place can never slide." And I just was like, "Well, he knows." And then as we progressed 2.5 hours up the mountain, like I just was not feeling it. Everything felt wrong. Everything felt hard. It was just
Okay.
one of those days that it's just like I don't. I think I'm going to go down. Finally, I got
Mm-hmm.
the courage to say, I'm going to go down. I'm out. Like it's
Yep.
getting later. I got to get home. And I was just so many things were out of whack. And
Mm-hmm.
then to find out the next day that that gentleman had passed away
Yeah.
right there when we were
Yep.
there was shocking and such a reminder
Yeah.
of we have to be responsible for ourselves, and we have to weigh the risks for ourselves
Always.
always.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great reminder. A few years ago, I got diagnosed with I'm a blood thinners now. I'm a blood clot guy, and
Oh,
but before that, I used to always go out solo, and now it just sits in my head. I have a wife. I have a son who just had my first grandbaby. I've got. It's like
yep.
they don't necessarily know where I'm at but to go without somebody now is a little bit. It just rings in my head. It's like, be responsible, Charlie. Are you going someplace safe? I mean, if I'm going to Hope Valley, that's one thing. But if I'm going to Yosemite, I'm gonna be gone for 4 days. It's a different story. I'd at least give some
Yeah.
details, right?
It's tough
But
because I love going by
I
myself.
do,
In
yeah,
fact, most of the time, I'd much rather go by myself. But
yep,
like you, after that avalanche, I have grandchildren. I have two
yeah,
grandchildren who this book is dedicated to, and
yeah.
it is a huge reason I wrote this book.
Uh,
Because if I'm not around when they're older, I want them
they're gonna
to
see
read
your
this book
stories.
and hope. Yeah,
I
I
love
hope.
that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that part to me. I've been thinking about that as a grandpa a little bit, going,
Yeah,
how
it
do how do
changes
you leave
you.
legacy, right? Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, I ask all my guests 3 questions. I actually do have one more question. You don't have
Yeah,
you do not have to answer this if you don't want to.
I
Okay.
will answer
Okay.
anything pretty much.
So
I'm an
let's
open
let's
book,
talk
so to
let's
speak.
talk Bob for a minute.
Oh, for sure. Let's
Okay.
talk Bob. Yes.
So 2-part question. Have you ever thought about going on a search for Bob, or as I walk Sierra, I find memorials all the time in the Sierra for family members, whatever. Have you ever thought about going back to that location and building a memorial for him? It's just kind of a weird thing I thought about. Going, you are a very unique person. You've got to experience maybe somebody's last, right?
Oh,
In a
and
very
not knowing
spiritual
it.
way, and not
Yeah.
knowing, right? So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought you'd ask you that after finishing the book up. So
yeah. I after getting home after meeting Bob, and for those of you that haven't read the book or don't know really what the heck we're talking about,
that's
um,
on purpose. Read the book.
yeah. Well, I mean, Bob was a crazy, amazing, special story about a gentleman who was up at a place called Grant Lake out of Yosemite on
Mhm.
my way to coming down from 10 Lakes Basin. I took a side trail and um, had an experience with Bob, who had decided that he wasn't going back down, that he was
Mhm.
going to stay there until the end of his life, basically. Now, there was always a possibility, and I told myself he could be not telling me the truth.
Yeah, of course, right. Yeah.
Like he could have just been saying, or he could have said, heck, I'm not going to do this. What was I thinking? And go down. Old Bob was in his mid 80s. He had cancer. He did not take the trail up that I took. He cut across country, this old man.
Yep.
And I mean, he outfished me. It was just me and Bob at Grant Lake. And Bob knew the Sierra like no one I had ever met.
Hmm.
He knew all my secret spots, plus some.
Yeah.
Um, so when I got home and the first snowstorm we had, I could not, I just bawled. I just bawled. I just thought about Bob. And I told Charlie, of course, he knew about Bob.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing. I wonder if where's Bob? What's he doing right now? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. We think of Bob all the time.
Yeah.
And there's still a little part of me that hopes maybe Bob was BSing me and
Yeah.
I somehow run into him one day and I
I'm
will be
personally
so
going, I
happy.
hope Bob's just made it through and he's just walking
Yes.
the Yosemite the rest of his
Yes.
life. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I have to do a reading this evening in South Lake Tahoe at the library. And I've decided to read the end of the Bob story of why, what was the final straw that convinced me to write this book.
Uh-huh.
And I've practiced twice and I can't get through it without crying.
Cry away, man. Cry away. It's a beautiful story. It really is. And thanks for sharing. I don't know why I wanted to ask that question of you because it was like
Oh, I'm
there's
glad you did.
this
And I
personal
don't know.
connection there. So
Yeah, no. I mean, I think you don't have to be an outdoorsy person to
to
appreciate the
appreciate that
story
story. Yeah.
and Bob's position.
Absolutely. So, okay, my final 3 questions. They're all the same for all 3 guests, but this will be kind of fun for you. So, let's pretend your bag is packed behind you, and you get to go anywhere in the Sierras tomorrow that you want to go play and disappear for yourself. Where are you going and why?
If I didn't have to be back the next day, I would probably head somewhere around Yosemite. And there's so many places in Yosemite that
Oh,
I've never
yes.
gone to because I know, oh, they're super touristy. So I don't go.
Yep.
Clouds Rest. I've
Yeah,
never
I
been to
never.
Clouds Rest.
Yep,
You
yep.
haven't?
I've climbed
Oh,
Hoffman, but I've never climbed at. I've done Clouds Rest up to Sunrise Lakes
yeah,
and
I've done
through. So
Sunrise
yeah,
and Upper Sunrise and Middle
yep.
Sunrise and all those, and have never done Clouds Rest. So I would say, have to say, somewhere I got a lot of catching up to do in
That's
Yosemite.
awesome.
So
Okay, very
Yosemite,
good. Yeah, that's always a
the
great answer, right?
Tioga Tuolumne Meadows part, not the
Always a
valley.
great answer. Perfect. All right. So when I get done hiking on my big adventures, I'm a foodie. I love a cheeseburger, milkshake, French fry guy. What is the go-to food when you're get off of your big adventure? So,
We only get one.
wait, what is that you crave? I mean,
Oh,
like is there
what
something you just crave when you come off trail?
oh, this is weird. This is so weird. I crave Pepsi with ice. I
Pepsi with
don't
ice.
Pepsi with ice, not in a can, not it has to be in a glass or a cup with ice. I don't
My
know if it's the ice. Ice gets me. When I was in Peru, the ice got me. Ooh,
my
bad.
buddy Tom, I hike with, his is a cherry Coke with ice,
Oh,
and
that would be
he
second.
carries this little copper metal cup because it tastes better
Ooh,
when the ice
yes,
is in the copper cup than it
yes.
does. So
I
completely
love
get
that.
it.
That I would say so. So definitely that would be my quick and go to. The first thing if you said that, what do you want? Pepsi with ice.
Pepsi with
But
ice.
yeah, as far as food, almost anything. Fish tacos come to
Fish
mind.
tacos are good. I
Fish
like that.
tacos if they're good, you
Very
know.
good. Do you have a favorite joint that you like to stop by in the Sierra that's kind of like I don't pass that. Like I love
Oh
Monocone in
yeah.
the barn there in
You
Bridgeport. It's
know,
like
the Kirkwood Inn, when it used to be
Kirkwood Inn.
open,
Hmm.
it's not even been
Needs to come
open this
back,
summer.
man.
Yeah,
Needs to
if
come
they
back.
don't get it together, man, I might have to rob a bank and open that place. I love the Kirkwood
I
Inn. I don't
love
even
that.
care about what the food tastes like. Like, the
Just
food's
open the
always been
joint, right?
good. Just
Yep.
open the Kirkwood Inn so I can go sit at the bar,
Uh,
and
let's
I
just
love
make
that
that a
place.
thing. Let's make that a thing.
Yes.
Okay, final question. Gearhead. We're all gearheads somehow. I'm a paper map guy.
Mm,
What kind of gear do you never leave home without, or
man,
shouldn't
one
you leave home?
well,
Without?
definitely phone because I've started cheating with the backcountry maps now
There you
that
go.
but I never hardly ever go anywhere anymore without I don't know if this is gear, but my
Hmm.
little tiny butter stick fly rod that packs down
Absolutely.
super tiny. I don't know if that's really gear,
You have
but
to show me that because I'm trying to learn. I want to learn how to fly fish, and I'm
oh,
looking for something that I can put in my backpack that's very lightweight that I can play with. So,
yeah,
yep.
it's good. It's great for fishing like brushy little streams, but when
Mhm.
you take it into Yosemite, that bigger water, I catch myself casting like a beast instead of like pretty nice, big fly rod. You're just kind of getting it out there and it just floats lovely. No, I'm just manhandling this little rod trying to get some distance.
Mhm.
But for creeks and rivers, boy, you can't hardly beat it. It doesn't weigh anything.
Nice.
They're hard to find now, but yeah, I'd
Yeah.
have to go with because I've been places and wished, oh my God, I hiked all this way and I look at all these fish tormenting me that I could be catching.
I get razzed a lot because I don't go fishing all these places I go to, and it's like
Oh
I
yeah, the
sat and watched
lakes
fly
here.
fishermen on these lakes and bald
Oh,
eagles fishing. I'll just sit and watch them going,
oh,
it's like a
you'll
wasted
be hooked.
opportunity.
That's a little cliche, but you'll be hooked.
Exactly.
It's just it's such it just fits perfectly
Yeah.
into that hiking. I even went to fly fishing off my paddleboard because I can't just paddleboard now. So that's been fun.
FOMO.
Tenaya Lake. I caught some huge fish off my paddleboard last summer
Did
in
you?
Tenaya.
I paddleboard tonight for the first time last summer. It was my first time ever
Oh,
doing
isn't
it.
it
It was awesome.
beautiful?
The best
Oh, that
experience. That was my
water.
favorite by far. I was like, that was like magical. But
And that's another thing. I've driven past that lake probably dozen times, maybe at least,
mhm.
and never stopped.
That is one of those places I always tell people says if I'm driving by, I'm going swimming. I'm jumping
Yeah.
in. I don't it's like I just don't but so I almost have to tell myself I can't go down there because I don't have time. Because if I go down there, I'm going swimming. I love that lake. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I hear
absolutely.
you.
So Lisa, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to tell your story. If you're out there and you want to look for a good book, this will take you less than a day if you're my wife. It took me 3 days to read. It is a fantastic read. It's called True Nature Hidden in the High Sierra. Lisa Michelle, where's the best place for them to get the book if they want to pick up the book?
Wherever they like,
Okay.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. My website's a good place if you don't aren't in love with Amazon.
Yeah,
Um,
remember what's your website? Say your website real quick to the readers.
Lisa Michelle Stories.
Stories. That's it.
Everything is Lisa Michelle Stories.
Lisa Michelle Stories. Perfect. Look it up online. I highly recommend it. I'm not a huge reader, but the books I've read them. It's an easy read. It's fun. It's full of hidden spots. I guarantee if you're an explorer, you want to pick this book up. There's things that you're going, where in the heck is that? Going, I haven't walked by. She's done the bit, and it's very emotional. Again, tell you, I kid you not, I laughed, I cried. I wanted to know more. So thank you so much for letting me tell the story. I wish you the best in Tahoe tonight, reading the kids. I hope the Bob story goes well.
Oh, me too.
And you always have a friend here at Cedar Rec. If you want to share more of your voice or share some of your adventures with us, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words and for reading the book. And I'm so relieved that you liked it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And wherever you're at today, if you're our listener, thank you for being with us. We're still growing, so share this with your friends if you think they like it. Send us a note. Tell us what your favorite hidden spots in the area are, if you trust me. And other than that, we hope you have a blessed day. Travel safe. We'll talk to you next week.